And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. We got Paul Konyndyk here. Michigan State, big win, 75-66. Michigan State, number 13 team in the country, beat number 12 ranked Purdue Boilermakers here at Breslin Center. Another sellout crowd. Michigan State playing good basketball. You guys saw it. Well, it was on Peacock. Some of you didn't see it. Michigan State looks like a good basketball team. Purdue played well early, got a little bit of a lead, but I'm starting to get this feeling, Paul, that when a team, even as good as Purdue is, they get a lead, it's just like, okay, Michigan State's surge is coming. At home, you should expect that. But as the season goes along, you get toward 30 games, getting your crap together, this Michigan State team is, in my opinion, getting more and more sewn together with roles, becoming a better team. I don't know if that's going to show itself on Friday with a second straight two-day prep. But Michigan State today, I thought, kind of broke through a little bit to a higher ceiling level today. You agree with that, Paul? Am I crazy?
I just think they played a game that they had to win. I mean, that they had to win, right? So that's a ceiling level right there. You know that when you play Purdue, and this is a good Purdue team, not at the same team that they've had in recent years, but different. And they've got different scorers, and they've got good complementary pieces, and they've won a crap ton of quad one wins. And I don't want to dismiss anything that they do. I think Purdue is one of the best teams in the Big Ten, despite the fact that they've lost 3 straight. And they're all close games. But Purdue is a really good team, well coached. They've got veterans. Braden Smith is, having seen him in person tonight, and I'm just impressed with him.
He's quick and he's slick.
I don't care what people say about him and what people want to dismiss him, but if you look at the stats and who he's with, I think I put that in the 3 things to watch. Like, he's, as far as assists and points and all that crap and steals, he'd be the first Big Ten. He will be the first Big Ten player since Mike Conley to lead the Big Ten in assists and steals. He's the only like one of 6 players in conference history to have more than 400 assists in back-to-back seasons, and that's a small list. It includes Irvin Magic Johnson, Cassius Winston, Eric Snow, and a couple others. Just impressive what he can do and what he's able to do. Also super impressive to me to see how Michigan State played defense on him, and that to me is a mark of a good team. Not whether you're hitting open shots or whether a team is down and you take advantage of that. It's what your best can do to take away their best. And this felt like a real Michigan State-Purdue game, from going back all the way to the Izzo Katie era, and where this is a really close game, and then Michigan State finds a way to win with hustle or defense. And Michigan State got the intangible plays, the hustle plays, the hard work plays, and so much of it started with defense. We'll talk later about the fast break points in this game. There wouldn't have been a lot of them if it wasn't for defense. And the defense of Michigan State played on Braden Smith. He scored 17 points. He had 8 assists in this game, but he wasn't able to get the ball where he wanted to get the ball as easily as he wanted to get the ball to scoring options. They did a great job on him. They made Trey and Wren work. And not only that, they took away everything that Fletcher Lawyer feasts on, but in that role as the number 3 receiver. I'll put him at that because he does a really good job on being Fletcher Lawyer, and Jaden Aiken shut that down. This is the best defensive performance that Michigan State has had against a really good team that runs good stuff. And you can say that they're a different team than they were without Zach Edey, and I agree with you, but they still have several guys that have started a lot of games. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, this is their 102nd start for each of them. This is an experienced team that has some great pieces, and they have some mismatches. Michigan State did absolutely everything they needed to do in this game to win a team against a team that really is still probably in the thick of the Big Ten title race, but Michigan State had to have this win, to keep themselves in that mix and keep it going and moving forward and pursuing that Big Ten championship. Yeah,
Purdue's been Big Ten champions a lot in recent years. They've beaten Michigan State 9 of the last 10 or whatever it was.
Several of those games were really, really close. I mean, in games that were heartbreaking losses at home, where they were up 5 points late in the game, and then Purdue would hit a couple late shots, or there'd be some foul trouble and that type of thing. So, yeah, Purdue has won a lot, and Jaden Akins is the only guy on this team that has an experience of having beat Purdue. But at the same time, they have been really competitive games for the most part, the ones played on this floor, and it was competitive again tonight.
Yeah, and Michigan State deservingly handled business today, and Purdue played pretty well. Michigan State, I agree, played really good defense. I agree with that, and Purdue still shot 51%. And I made that post on the in-game thread 10 minutes into the game. I'm like, I don't care if Purdue is shooting 50%. This is the best defense Michigan State has played all year. Braden Smith got some points, got some assists, but the on-ball defense from Jeremy Fears and the ball screen defense when he had Cooper coming out on the ball screen and feathering it with his lateral movement and shutting it off. And meanwhile, the guy that Cooper leaves alone gets tagged by the other big guy, and then he recovers to his guy, and that guy recovers back. The tags and recoveries were excellent for Michigan State, the best I've seen all year. I mentioned that to Izzo after the press conference. He agreed that's the best they've been. The communication was good. The awareness was good. It wasn't perfect. There were a couple times when a couple plays got away, but they made it difficult for Smith. And Purdue still navigated through all that. 12 turnovers, more than they usually get, but 51%. Purdue still played a pretty good game, still made some shots. And Michigan State made it difficult on them, and the togetherness on defense is something they can carry over to other opponents. You know, they can say, we're going to do ball screen defense this way, the way we did against Purdue or whatever. It might not carry over to Michigan because Michigan has 4 shooters, sometimes 5 shooters. It's more spread you out with a couple of wings that can do a lot of damage. But Michigan State defense was really good. Another thing they were really good on was not biting on ball fakes. One of my favorite plays that Michigan State had today, Cohen Carr raced out on Fletcher Lawyer. You know Cohen Carr, you can't blame him. He loved to block all shots all the time. He comes out under control, didn't go for the pump fake. Fletcher Lawyer tries to get him up in the air. Cohen Carr with his 40-plus vertical doesn't bite. Races out to the corner, shot fake drive. Jace Richardson tips it away, steal the other way, and I think it might have been a layup or a dunk. It might have been Jackson Kohler with a layup, but I asked Izzo about that after the press conference. He said, man, we worked hard on not biting on pump fakes. And that's coaching when you get a guy, when you've got all that, when you've got some athletes that are playing within a team construct that percentages-wise, Izzo wants to play sound and play square. And over the course of time, he believes that will pay dividends more so than jumping on the gym trying to block shots here and there and blowing leaks and so forth. But the coaching, they were carrying out the way Izzo wants to play. And this team is increasingly doing that. And I think it's kind of nice to watch. I think Michigan State's a pretty good basketball team, Paul Konyndyk.
Yeah, and I think Jeremy Pierce is really good in the second half. He really struggled in the first half in a lot of ways. And I think the guy that was a tone setter for Michigan State in terms of the backcourt defense, I thought Trey Hollman did some really good things on defense, and he's got some length. But he was like I don't know.
Building that strength too. You notice him getting a little. He's bigger. He's long. He's more muscular.
He's long,
and he's adding some muscle now.
He has, but you expect it. I just was impressed, like how closely he defends some of these guys, where he's like slithery, and it reminds me of some of those old UConn guards at times. Like today when he was running around out there defending without fouling, and he was staying right on their hip. But he really frustrated some things. And Braden Smith, I mentioned before what a veteran guy he is, but Matt Painter acknowledged afterwards that he took Braden Smith out of the game to calm him down because he was frustrated about, he could tell that Smith was frustrated on them not getting into kind of what they wanted to get into. And that's probably as good a compliment as you can give Michigan State as a defense. What I liked about Michigan State's defense is, I talked about Jeremy Pierce struggling in the first half, but that he found ways to impact the game in the second half where he didn't have to shoot. He was a plus defensive player in the second half, and he ran the team pretty well, and he did some really good things. So, and I think that's a credit to a lot of these guys on this team that we're starting to see that not letting your offense dictate your defense, and that's so hard to do from a psychological standpoint, because I know if you're Jeremy Pierce and you turn down shots that you were making earlier in the year, or you're hesitant on pulling the trigger to get the ball to a guy that you would have no hesitancy to pull the trigger on, that's a frustrating type of thing. But if you can use your defense and not get frustrated by that and continue to battle, that's just a huge feather in Michigan State's cap, and that's a sign of a veteran team and a team that can compete for championships. Because what Michigan State really did in this game, better than almost any other team I can remember playing Purdue, is they were able to get easy buckets against a really good Purdue defense. Purdue is the best in the Big Ten in offensive efficiency. They're also second best, I think, in defensive efficiency. So this is like a really efficient Purdue team, and Michigan State got some really easy buckets, and we're not accustomed to seeing that against Purdue. And I think that it's a credit to them, and I think psychologically this program needed this win against Purdue. Yeah. Purdue's been the big boy, and for Michigan State to think of itself as a contender, a true contender, that road win that they got at Illinois last weekend is a huge deal. But this win at home, and to win in a decisive fashion, when Purdue had all of its dogs and they played pretty well, and this was like a possession type game, this is what Michigan State needed as a program to say, hey, we can compete for a Big Ten championship. That's just my opinion. I don't know how it's going to go from the rest of the way out. But there's a reason why you saw guys from recent big Michigan State history coming back for this game. It meant a ton to them. Guys that we didn't know cared maybe as much as they did. Tyson Walker was more vocal in this game sitting behind the bench than we've seen him for 3 years at Michigan State.
That's right.
Joey Hauser had a big smile on his face. Malik Hall, he's going to be chilling, but he was out here. Those guys all suffered close losses to Purdue, and it meant a lot for those guys to be out here, and it meant a lot for these guys tonight to have those guys supporting them.
It fell on the All-Star break, so that includes the G League. So those are 3 G League players that were here, and Izzo was happy to see that. Izzo mentioned that Tyson Walker's parents were at the game, and they plan to come to another game later in the year, and Izzo takes that as a great compliment that the parents of a player who no longer plays for Michigan State considers himself still part of the program. And it's things like that that cause people like Steve Alford and others to say Michigan State has the best culture in college basketball.
Matt Painter would agree with it, too.
Yeah, Duke has great culture and all that stuff, but top to bottom, fans, players, former players, Michigan State's got something really great going on here. Another sellout crowd. Atmosphere is always real good. Paul, but we want to say give us a like here on the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com. $1 a week. $1 a week for the whole year. Subscribe to Spartan Mag. If you like our analysis and you don't get sick of us here, you really love the website. We got a lot of great people doing a lot of great jobs over there, including Jason Killip, Kenny Jordan, Jake Liskow, and those guys. And also, Paul, I want to say, did you know that just a few years ago, the state of Michigan ranked first in the nation for deposit container recycling? 90% of all purchased bottles and cans were being redeemed for their deposits. Today, only 73% are being redeemed. That means Michiganders are forfeiting $105 million every year in bottle and can deposits that are not being redeemed. This deficit is having a negative impact on the environment. When Michigan State's recycling rate drops, it hurts the environment, it hurts industry, and it hurts all of us. So help the environment, help yourself, help your state, and take them back. Take back those bottles and cans. They're your lakes, your roads, and your beaches, and it's your dime. So take them back. It's worth your time, and everyone will benefit. Take them back. A message from Shupan. Shupan, a great Michigan company dedicated to recycling and dedicated to the Michigan State Spartans. And Paul, I was going to say something else, but I forgot. But I'll say this. You mentioned Braden Smith, and Matt Painter mentioned that he sat him down just to get him reset and readjusted because he's getting frustrated, not being able to get into what they wanted to do on offense. That's because of the defensive pressure. He mentioned Jeremy Fears doing a lot of great things as an all-around player in this game. The shot's not there. We'll talk about that in a minute. Remind me about that. But he did everything else really well. Quarterbacked the team, played really good defense. And those two things kept showing up over and over, and some of the touch passes that he was doing in a moment's notice were outstanding. But Jeremy Fears plays 19 minutes. Trey Hollman plays about 25. 5 of Holloman's minutes, of course, were at a wing, but basically 19 minutes for Fears at the point. That means the other 21 or 20 minutes for Hollman are at the point. So you're Braden Smith. You play 39 minutes, and you're going full bore, and you're spending everything, and you got Fears guarding you for 19 minutes, and then Holloman's guarding you for 19 minutes. It's not fair. You know, a lot of these guys can play 40 minutes, and I don't know if that's optimal or not, but when you're a really good player like Smith, and you got to deal with 2 defensive dogs like that are each on your jock for 20 minutes apiece, it makes your job a lot harder. Smith was 17 points, but he had six turnovers, which is more than usual. The wear-down effect, the strength in numbers, specifically at the head of the snake, specifically at the point guard position, specifically at point guard defense for Michigan State was excellent tonight.
No one plays harder than Braden Smith, and you don't want to take that away from him. You know, you saw it earlier in the game, and I posted on the early thread, in the in-game thread, that, you know, Braden Smith is winning some of these hustle plays. You know, and he did. He had some really tough shots, and he ran down some balls that I thought Michigan State could have done a better job getting, some loose balls, some 50-50 type of rebounds.
He's a very good player.
And you know, like, nobody in the country plays as hard as Braden Smith for as many minutes as that he does. But you cannot sustain that kind of level of play, you know, forever. And I think that's one.
Unless the guy you're playing against is also playing 39.
Right.
But when you get in there as a tag team in a situation like this, man.
Right. So in a game like against Michigan State, or a team with guard depth, you know, and veteran guard depth, and guys that know how to defend, and there's not really a defensive weakness on this Michigan State team. It makes it awfully hard for Braden Smith, and that's the kind of team that Michigan State, or that Purdue's gonna have trouble with. You know, teams that can just throw guards after guard after guard at you and like take you out of what you want to do. And I think Michigan State did a better job than any team I've seen Purdue play of taking them out of some of their simple actions and some of the simple shots that they get.
And Michigan State operating with the horns when they went ball screen lob for 3 dunks on that. And Painter said we didn't work enough on that. Michigan State does that a little bit, but tonight they got it a few times, kept going to it. He blamed himself for that. But Michigan State finding something, going to it, pragmatic in those ways. And also the stretch 4, Paul, the stretch 4. Jackson Kohler hit a big 3-pointer in the first half during Michigan State's little run. 1 out of 2 from 3-point range tonight. Of course, 4 out of 5 from 3-point range against Illinois. He's not going to do that every game. But 1 out of 2 from Kohler. And the one he missed looked pretty good. And then Frankie Fiddler hit the 3-pointer as the power forward on the weak side. They're running side ball screen over there on the right. The defense is skewed over there to it. The scouting report is Michigan State does not have a stretch 4. Sag off of that guy, Frankie Fiddler. Career 35+% 3-point shooter at Omaha, but not this year. He's 17% at Michigan State. Sag off of him. Michigan State runs it, gets it to Fiddler, wide open. And I don't know if I felt like the whole season stopped. Is that just my imagination?
Yeah.
Or just my imagination? For me, the whole season stopped. Because Fiddler was supposed to be something this year. He has the ability to do it, and he gets this shot opportunity as a power forward, which is more significant, in my opinion, than doing it as a 3. And the shot's open, and I'm like, is he finally going to make one? I've seen him in practice. They're still working on it. I see him after practice working on it. They've not shut the door on him doing this more than once a game. Makes a shot, looks good, goes down as part of a run from the power forward position. And, again, probably all in my head, but I was like, did he just bust through a ceiling on this? He's got to keep doing it. But he played the power forward tonight. I'm pretty sure all of his minutes were at the 4. Izzo said at the 3, but he meant to say 4. Played 15 minutes. I think they were all at the 4. Xavier Booker plays 5 minutes, misses a 3-pointer, had a big mistake on a defensive rebound that he allows, and then he quit on a play, and the guy that he gave the shot to ends up getting an open 3-pointer, makes it. They got to take him out, playing 5 minutes. Michigan State's trying to win championships. As Izzo says, the players determine their playing time. So Fiddler's having trouble finding minutes, of course, and he got 15 at the 4. He's getting Booker's minutes and then some of his own. And that's the way it should be, the way they're playing right now. And Fiddler's doing some gritty things here and there along the baseline, finishes one. He's doing some pretty good floor burn stuff with some rebounds and everything. But if he can hit some 3-pointers, Paul Konyndyk, if Kohler can make like 1 out of 3 per game, and Fiddler can make 1 out of 3 over the course of time, and they can get 33% from the power forward position, the ceiling of potential for this team goes beyond the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and the thing about that I liked, and I'm not going to go bemoan the fact that he hit 3s. He hit a 3. That's great. They need that. Kohler hitting open 3s. They need it. If someone's going to back off your players and you're going to give you that, you want to be able to hit it. Michigan State's best teams have been able to do that. There's been a couple that have done it in different ways, not having that. If Michigan State would have had Malik Hall at the 4 this year, as much as I bemoaned them not having a stretch 4 last year, that would have been better than what they've had up until recently with Kohler stepping forward. Now, the thing that I really like about both Kohler and Fiddler is that they understand that it's about more than just the 3 ball. So just because Frankie Fiddler hit a 3 or hit a mid-range jumper, he isn't changing who he is. Just because Jackson Kohler hit a bunch of 3s the other night against Illinois, I liked some of the other stuff he did against Illinois even better. Like the bread.
But we know he can do that.
We know he can do it, but the fact that he's doing it with confidence against shot blockers and stuff like that's big for me, because I know that he can do it, but sometimes he doesn't know he can do it against teams that
he's in rhythm now. He's not rushing himself.
But the fact that Frankie Fiddler's not hunting 3s because he made a 3, that's all big, and that's the difference between those 2 dudes and Xavier Booker. Xavier Booker comes in first open 3, he's going to shoot it.
Well, they ran a play for him directly.
They did,
they were running their Zoom stuff, and rather than running the rest of the Zoom, they broke it off and went straight to him. It was to him as a first option. Right. So don't blame him for shooting that. They created that for him.
Right. I blame him for all the other stuff. And against a team that, frankly, against a team that recruit, if it's me, I'm just saying me, and I'm a laid-back dude, but sometimes I get competitive. But if it's a team that recruited me as hard as Purdue did, and don't be saying that Purdue backed off Xavier Booker, because they didn't. All those people that want to say this team backed off, that team didn't back, Indiana backed off. No, they didn't. They were late to the party. Purdue recruited him hard.
You sure?
Yeah. They kept on recruiting him, but they didn't think he was the number 1 player in the country. Okay, neither did Michigan State. But you got to do what you got to do. And for me, if I'm a kid from Indiana, I'm going as hard as I can. And we've seen it over the years, like Ty Rodgers at Illinois when he plays against Michigan State, man. The dude from Ohio State, Devin Royal. He's got some big games against Michigan State, man. The teams that recruited you, you're supposed to play hard against. And for a game like this with the kind of championship implications that are out there, it's disappointing to see a guy not playing with the kind of effort. I don't care if he plays with effort, makes mistakes. I'm talking about just basic effort, running after a rebound, not getting boxed out into the front row by someone that's of comparable size or even smaller. You just can't do that. So I think Xavier Booker's come a long way this year, but you can't invest developmental minutes on a guy against a team like Purdue, because when he came in, Michigan State was up by 10 points, and immediately we're up by, I think, 12. Immediately it went down to 6, and then all of a sudden Purdue's right back in it. Those are the kind of things that will get you beat, and then that doesn't do a kid any favors either, because then he's going to be, the scapegoat for the rest of his career. But I think there's a spot for Xavier Booker at some point, but he has to go through what Jackson Kohler went through. You remember at his freshman year at the where Carson Cooper, because he was better on defense, took his minutes in the NCAA tournament. Jackson Kohler did not like that. I know he was upset. I'm sure he contemplated leaving, but he put his,
He's a better player for it now.
Yeah, he is. And if it wasn't for situations like that where he had his minutes taken away, and Pierre Brooks had his minutes taken away by Trey Hollman, who wanted to play defense and do the sacrifice things that you need to do to win games, then you don't become a better player. Jackson Kohler is the player he is today because of the adversity that he went through, and because he kept on sticking with it, got incrementally better, and he wanted to take on tough matchups where people said, no, you can't do this. And he said, yeah, I've worked hard at it. I can. And, for guys like Xavier Booker, he needs to get there. Now, Frankie Fiddler, he doesn't have a whole lot of time left, but he's had the same type of deal where at Omaha things kind of came easy to him. His scoring could overcome whatever deficiencies he had on defense, but he's had to, in a short period of time, had to change who he is, change his outlook on basketball, and do the little things right, and he's a better player for it. And I think he's starting to feel proud of himself because he's stared down some adversity. He's fought his way into it, and now he feels like he's a valuable member of this team, and he is.
He's battling for minutes, and him making a three-pointer, it's just 3 points. Kohler making a three-pointer, just 3 points. But that's bull crap. It's not just those 3 points here and there. And we know what Kohler can do, and he's more relaxed in the posts. The mistake he made at the end of the USC game notwithstanding, he grew from that. But it's not just getting points from there. It's what it makes the opponent do. Right. If they can start making those shots on a regular basis, that changes the way the defenses have to play Michigan State University. You can't play the defense that Dwayne Stevens played for Western Michigan against Michigan State because he knew he didn't have shooters, or the funky defense, as Musselman called it, from USC, leaving guys unguarded. Mm-hmm. You can't play that way if Kohler from the stretch four is someone you have to at least acknowledge as a shooter and play him honestly. It makes it easier for Akins to drive and Richardson to drive, and it makes your playbook a lot better. And if Fiddler comes off the bench as a stretch four, and now you have to get out on him a little bit, it changes the way the opponent has to play Michigan State, and that's progress toward Michigan State being a problem in the month of March, Paul Konyndyk.
Absolutely. And I know that we're going to Jeremy, there are still guys that can be a little bit better and do a few better things. I think, I just talked about Booker, he can do the effort, energy things better, and I know that it's there within him if he wants.
He's a 5-minute player,
right? If he wants to, if he wants to have a bigger role, he can go out and earn it, just like Frankie Fiddler had to go out and earn it. Now, but there is some guys that need to be just a little bit better, and Jeremy Fears is a guy that absolutely has to be better. I said this to you at halftime, but I don't think we talk about this enough because of Jeremy Fears being a second-year player. But he's never gone through what the other freshmen in his class, Cohen Carr, went through last year with having that many games, that many minutes, that much pressure. And I feel like in some ways, Jeremy Fears, coming off the illness and the travel, and he's just kind of beat down a little bit mentally, and he's hitting the freshman wall, a redshirt freshman wall, we'll call it that. But that's what he is, because he didn't go a whole season. He went 10 games last year before the injury, and I think he's this kind of dude that's mentally tough. He's crazy in a good way, and so he's going to be able to fight his way through it. But they need to see him make progress, and it has to be soon with a Big Ten championship, on the line. But I do like the way he bounced back in the second half. He didn't mope. He just went about his business, did what he had to do, clamped on a defense, made other players around him better.
Yes.
And then I think what's going to happen is he's going to find a game where he can get to the rack, drive to the rack and make some scores. And he's going to be able to, I think you're going to see him work his way out of it there. But he has to be better shooting shots that we know he can make, that he's made all season long, and that for whatever reason he's passing up right now.
That's the enigma right now. And he was excellent. It's good to see his playmaking bounce back because his decision-making and his quarterbacking has been off the last couple of games. It was better today. His defense was better. His quarterback and his defense were excellent today. The shooting has gotten away from him. He didn't show any confidence in medium-range shots at Illinois and Indiana. And early in the season, I didn't think Fears was going to shoot well all year. I thought it was going to be like an Eric Snow freshman type of shooting season because the shooting was a question anyway. They needed all that time off for reasons that we're all aware of. In the summer, it was a work in progress. They hadn't had a chance to really work on it. I really didn't think that he was going to be able to shoot well this year. And I thought Michigan State's point guard situation without a guy that can shoot, I was like, man, that's going to be a difficult problem. Early in the season, he shut me up. He proved me wrong. He shot well early in the season, looked confident. Was had good rhythm and good timing and all that stuff, and it looked like a shooter. I was like, I'm wrong. He was shooting well from three-point range. And then where that's gone in recent weeks, is it a freshman wall? I don't know what it is, but the reluctance, the lack of confidence. He had confidence in November to shoot it, and he's turning them down now. And in his heart, he's turning them down for the betterment of the team. He thinks there's other guys that can get a shot. That's why he wasn't shooting it. And we saw it became painfully obvious in the first half of this game. They go in at halftime up by 2. Michigan State's first possession of the second half, he has an open three and he takes it. Because at halftime, Izzo said, if you're open, take the shot. Credit Izzo. I'm sure that's what happened. And didn't make it and missed another one later on. But against drop coverages like you're going to see at Michigan and some other places, that pull-up 15-footer for Michigan State to achieve everything they're capable of this year, you can't have a point guard reluctant to shoot. He has to be a capable threat to shoot it. I don't know if he's going to get there. But that's one of those unchecked boxes that can take Michigan State to another level if that can get squared away. I'm not sure if it can or if it will or it won't. But my heart goes out to him because I know he's working on it. And, Booker, my heart goes out to him too because when he first got in the game, he made a good defensive flash on something. He was into it. But then his kill switch goes off and the pilot light went off and you saw what happened. So my heart goes out to him too. Don't talk more about Booker. We don't want to spend 6 minutes talking about a guy that played 5 minutes. But Fears, my heart goes out to him because I know he's working on it.
It's going to happen for him. He's going to turn it around because he's got that, like I said, he's got crazy in a good way. He's got some Flint, Saginaw, Joliet type of stuff to him. And he's a guy that isn't going to – he's going to go through a slump, but he's not going to lose track of who he is as an individual and the fact that he's a playmaker. And I like his attitude because you could see by the way he played in the second half that he knows he can impact the game in different ways. I think he's going to get back to it. But, again, it's going to end up being like it's going to be – him driving, getting fouled, shooting some free throws, that type of thing, or maybe hitting a big shot with the shot clock winding down, as we saw a couple guys do today. But I'm not worried about him. You can say because it's unknown, but I just know that personality types. That's not a guy that stays on the mat for a long time. They need him to be a better version of himself. But he was really good on defense, really good running the team. But I think he's going to get it back. I'm not worried about that.
Those two point guards combined 12 assists, 1 turnover for the second straight game. Hollman was the quarterback for the last 3 minutes of the game and did a good job with that horn screen, lob, dunk, and then shot clock's down, and he had that circus shot Glasser, which was it's a slop shot, but it had to go up because the shot clock's down, but he scored and got fouled. The thing there about Hollman is if he's got the ball in his hands, he's not lacking confidence.
Right.
And that's nice weaponry to have with the ball screen, drop coverage, 16-footer, medium range. He has the capacity to get better and better at that. As it is right now, he's a guy that's not afraid to take that shot. And he's the quarterback closing out these last 2 games. And you're not missing anything with him defensively at the other end either. So he's kind of the choice to finish games right now. And he did have a mistake defensively once. I can't remember specifically what it was, but Izzo got on him. But those are the screws that continue to get tightened. Michigan State was not perfect with those things, but Hollman's got the capacity to be a nice quarterback late in defense and all those things.
we talked about this in SpartanMag Live a couple of weeks ago after the UCLA loss. We're talking about like some of the things that, like against that drop coverage, against the packed-in defenses, about who needs to be on the floor at what time. And Hollman, to me, is the most the guy that's the most confident in getting his own shot and making his own type of situation. And and he's not selfish about it either. He's only going to do it when it matters. But I like that swagger that he has. And the nice thing about it now is, people last year were saying, well, he can't drive to the basket. Well, he hasn't been in a situation where the team has asked him or needed him to do that. But now we're seeing some of those scenarios where he can do those type of things. And, I don't mind him having the ball in his hands with the clock going down, because before you make it, you have to believe you're going to make it. And he's not selfish about it. He's not a guy that's going to, he's going to shoot you out of a game because he makes a circus shot. He understands, when to do it, when not to. And I think that's a credit to him. I think it's a credit to his mom. I've got a theory about dudes whose mom played basketball or coached basketball. I think they're more fundamentally inclined, but he's got a whole lot of confidence, and it's good to see guys like him maintaining that confidence even when they've gone through some down moments. And I think Fiddler's the guy that's getting his confidence back too. I just to see him, I think he's proud of himself for playing against some of these physical teams and measuring up, because everyone told him coming in from Omaha that the thing you're going to struggle with is the physicality, the athleticism, this and that. And I think he's proud of himself, as he should be, for going up against a Purdue team. And he said that this Purdue team is the most physical team he's played this year that he's seen.
Really?
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me, because that's what we come to expect from Purdue. And whether it's a different type of Purdue team or not, they play the right way. They foul hard, and just like Michigan State, it was a fist fight in a phone booth kind of game.
I'll be interested to see if Purdue plays a little smaller than Michigan will. Michigan's got the two bigs. They bring Cheddar off the bench. Can you go a few minutes with Fiddler at the 4 in that game? Will they isolate him and post him up? I don't know. Michigan State did a good job in post-up situations, getting helpers to come around and tag and rotate out of it. So any early thoughts on Michigan? Michigan's first place in the Big Ten. The two bigs, when they run the 4-5 ball screen, it's a problem. And the thing about Michigan that's excellent is they do all that stuff. They got the point guard transfer from Auburn that can create offense and score, and then Burnett hits three-pointers at a very high rate. So you got the 4-5 guys that are doing their things, but the Burnett is such a component, almost like a Duke University thing where Duke always has like a wing out there that if you help too much here, they kick it out and hit three-pointers. They just pour offense at you from all these different ways. Yeah, they turn it over a little bit, and yeah, this rivalry is going to be new to all those guys because they're all transfers except for Cheddar. But it's on the road. Meanwhile, Michigan State's doing it on a 2-day prep. Right now as we're doing this, I don't know what time is it, close to midnight. Izzo did his press conference, had a 2-hour rule, got something to eat. He's upstairs right now watching video, trying to decide what they're going to do with their players. I guess Michigan State has a day and a half to get ready for this game, not only in terms of preparation to prepare their players, but to rest the players, whereas Michigan gets 4 days. And that's a big difference. Paul, I think that's a 10-point advantage for Michigan. Yeah. I'm not saying Michigan's going to win by 10. If Michigan State wins by 5, to me, that means they would have won by 15 were it not for the difference in preparation. If Michigan wins by 5, if Michigan wins by 15, they would have only won by 5. That's my big nose index on that one.
Yeah,
Paul.
I feel conflicted on this, because on the one hand, I feel like, okay, if you're not playing in Michigan, then you're coming off let's say you're playing in Maryland or something like that. You just have back-to-back wins, a huge win at Illinois. You have a huge win at home against Purdue, and then all of a sudden you're feeling like you arrived a little bit. This is one of those deals where this team that has done a really good job of following scouting reports and getting ready and quick change scenarios. I thought Michigan State did a hell of a job in this game, being as into Purdue as they could be, given that Zach Edey's not there. This is a different Purdue team that runs different things, and they were all over everything, to the point where, Fletcher Lawyer couldn't get his kind of shot, where Purdue had to kind of run some stuff for him they don't usually run for him, just so he could get some looks. So I thought Michigan State does a great job in sudden change. I think it helps that Michigan State has really good defensive guards. And if their guards can lock in or are on the same page, and they don't have a weak defensive guard, I think that helps. But it's going to take a lot for this team. It's going to test their maturity. But I thought this game was going to test their maturity too, because I thought chopping down Illinois at home was a huge accomplishment. Chopping down Purdue is a big accomplishment. But none of those guys in that locker room, you could see they're happy, guys like Jaden Akins are happy, but they want to win a championship, and that's what their focus is. So I think it's going to be easier for them to turn the page and really get into it. And in this team game that they played tonight, all these guys are contributing as teammates because they want to win a championship, and I think that helps them. I do think that Michigan State against Michigan is going to be able to get downhill and get some easy buckets. I really do think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to be able to do some things that, they had some success against Oregon that maybe some teams don't. Michigan State's a good basketball team. I think they're going to get some runouts. If they rebound the ball as well as they have in the last two games, that it's going to be there. Yeah, they played 2 tough games, but they don't have guys playing, like you mentioned earlier, 35, 40 minutes, So you got veterans, and this rivalry, I think, is going to bring out the best of them. And I'd be more concerned if they were going on the road to a Maryland or going down to play in Indiana or a team like that than them playing Michigan. This kind of reminds me of back in 2019. They played a really good Michigan team, and they were playing shorthanded because there were some injuries in that season. But they kept on winning close games, and they did so. And you're like, okay, they have a really backloaded schedule. When are they going to drop a game? And they kept on finding ways to win. I think this team psychologically is in a great place, and they took their lumps in that three games losses in four games, and I think they're on the uptick again. And I think they're playing good defense, so rebounding at a championship level. And if they can keep rebounding at a championship level, get out and run, and turn defense into offense, they're going to have a chance. Yeah. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a great game, actually.
Right, and Dusty May was asked about Michigan State earlier in the week because Michigan State week for the Wolverines began 2 days ago or yesterday. And he said, we got to get back on defense, got to rebound. That's what everybody says when they play Michigan State for the first time. Purdue knows it. Illinois knows that they play against Michigan State every year. Dusty May's not coached against Michigan State every year. You can see it on film, and he knows the reputation, and he'll get his team ready to do that. Wolf, I think, does he lead the Big Ten in rebounding? He's a load, and he's got all kinds of talent with the rebounding intensity and the rivalry for a team that's full of transfers. And he's done a great job putting together all these transfers for this team this year. For this 1 year, did a good job with that. They'll be up for the rivalry, but they won't know until they really get into it. Even though it's at home, that'll help them. But the transition game of Michigan State, until you play against it, sometimes you're not ready. The rebounding of Michigan State, until you play against it, maybe you're not ready. He's a great coach, so maybe they will be ready. The rivalry part of it, until you're in it, you may not know. I don't know. But all those things could help Michigan State a little bit in terms of matchups, man. Michigan pours a lot of offense at you. Those guys hit shots, and they're not going to be missing shots the way Illinois was late in that game, I don't think.
No, but they don't take bad shots like Illinois does. I know that, it's crazy how many bad shots that Illinois takes. And to the point where, I wrote afterwards, if you're a team that can out-rebound Illinois, you have a chance to win because they take so many bad shots. They get away with those bad shots because they get so many offensive rebounds. But, you look at what Michigan State brings to the table, and Michigan State's got an interesting front court, in my opinion. This is a good time for, we didn't even talk about Shimon Zapala, and he might have played one of his best games in a long time. He played with a lot of heart, a lot of energy. And Carson Cooper quietly continues to be as good a defensive big man in the conference. And, the weakness of his game has always been his hands. Mm. And he continues to make some of these easy, screen and roll type of, dunks. It only makes them look easy. And but Michigan State throws different guys at you. And Jackson Kohler, he's going to be amped up for this game as well. And I think Jackson Kohler, those three guys playing well together in the last few games or last couple games, that really helps out. But Shimon Zapala took a step forward, and he busted through that. I'll call it that transfer wall. He's not the right guy for everybody, but he played good tonight, and it wasn't just him on Caleb First. He was out there in space and stuff like that too. So I think Michigan State, I've always thought that they potentially match up pretty good with Michigan. But if I'm Michigan, I'm looking at the defensive guards that Michigan State has, and I'm like, oh man, we better not commit turnovers. And if that's a problem, Purdue's got one of the best point guards in the country. And what Michigan State did to him defensively tonight, if I'm Dusty May, I'm thinking, oh man, our point guards have to play as well as they can, taking care of the ball, because Michigan State's they're not taking chances to get forced turnovers and that type of thing.
In the 4-5 situation, Cooper against Wolf will be interesting because Cooper showed, as good as Cooper's lateral movement has been good over the years. Today, I thought it was just a notch quicker. I thought Cooper was the quickest I've ever seen him on defense today. I don't know. Maybe it was the orange shoes. He's wearing orange shoes. Maybe that's something to do with it. But he was excellent. Only played 15 minutes. Went all out. Was excellent against Wolf. Now, Wolf's got some height on him, and Wolf's going to score his points. He's got all kinds of great skill. But if you can move your feet laterally and make it difficult for him, maybe he'll miss some along the way. But with the way they would do the 4-5 ball screen stuff, if Michigan State, does Cooper stay with Wolf, or does he switch on to Golden, and then you end up with Kohler on Wolf or Zapawa on Wolf? Do they have the lateral movement to stay with his skill and length? That remains to be seen. Those guys have had chances against other guys with length and skill at the power forward position. Dawson Garcia, Ace Bailey, and some others. Wolf is different that way. There's a chance that Michigan State's defensive bigs, the four-headed monster, might be pretty good against those two. I don't know until we see it actually in the ring.
Some of it's rebounding too. Like why I mentioned rebounding is if Michigan State continues to rebound at that level, they're going to get transition, and then you put them in a situation where I think Michigan State's bigs do a great job of running baseline to baseline. They take pride in that and enforcing other guys to sprint the length of the floor. Your best way to defend teams with bigs is to run them. And in Michigan State's depth, provided they don't have foul trouble, and that was a big thing tonight. I think Carson Cooper, they selectively put him in and out of the game based on who was in there, and they wanted to manage his foul trouble because I think there's a couple times where Purdue was like, oh, let's see if we can get Cooper his second foul, and they did right before halftime. But Michigan State did a nice job with a chess game of keeping Cooper out of foul trouble. Purdue was, I think they wanted him in foul trouble, and I would too if I was a coach because he does so many things as a problem. But Michigan State's transition game, the more you can run opposing bigs, the better for it, and then the more you run them, the more chances you get to go downhill. And I think they're not only going to have maybe the mid-range stuff, but they're going to have some chances to go to the rim against Michigan, and I think that's going to be key, not just going to the rim, but converting at the rim.
Michigan State's 21-5, 5 Big Ten games left, Paul. They win a big one if they can win a big one on Friday, that'll be a big step toward putting up another banner, which nobody really had on the map coming into the season. 5 big games. At Maryland's going to be really tough. Michigan back here is going to be tough. At Iowa, what's the other one that's kind of tricky?
The home game against Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Oh.
Yeah, so...
is it home? I don't think it's home.
Is it?
I don't know.
I think it is home.
Man, Wisconsin's red hot right now. You talk about a team that spreads you out with 5 guys that can all shoot. Playing good basketball.
And I promise you, their point guard, the little dude from Brother Rice, he's going to be extra up for this Michigan State game when Wisconsin comes in because Jonathan Blackwell, one of my favorite players, and Michigan State recruited him a little bit, but he's the kind of guy that plays with his heart on his sleeve, and that's a good team. A lot of tough games for Michigan State, but they're in position to, like Izzo said, do some great things. We'll see what happens on Friday. They got a shot at it. 21-5, and they look like a 21-5 team tonight. Earlier in the season when they had a big record and the schedule was weak, I was like, I don't really know what they are. Today I think we saw a little bit more about what Michigan State is. And they can get better if Fears can come around and be more confident with that shot. Nice strides from Kohler and Fiddler and Cooper and all these things. It's looking good for Michigan. And Akins, what I liked about Akins, they isolated him with some open shots, missed one, and he airballed one, and Izzo bit at him a little bit. You need Akins to make those shots. That's another thing. I don't know if that's ever going to come around, but if it does, that can put this team to another level. And Akins is their leading scorer, but I think he's better as a number 2 guy. Richardson's the number 1 bucket guy on this team. He's a bucket getter. And Akins is better like he was against Oregon, where he's like the number 2 guy. Now, I'm not saying you let Richardson score, shoot everything like he did that night, but just let shots come to you. Don't go hunting for your shots. Right. Let them come to you, and whether it be transition or that baseline drive. When I liked it about 2 minutes to go, he's open for 3. Shot fake, baseline drive. Didn't shoot it from the outside, wasn't feeling it, went inside and got it. But in the meantime, playing really, really good defense like he did in the second half against Shieldstad, against Oregon, helping turn that game around. As a number 2 guy playing defense, number 2, defense, number 2, instead of being like, I'm the first option, ball's in my hands, and give me a ball screen to win this game, right. Like in the USC game, that's not going to work. That's not who he is. His skill's not quite there. But as Robin, he can be your damn good Robin. Yeah, and plus defense. And I think Matt Painter said it best. Matt Painter was like, he's a guy that, it leads him in scoring, but, he's not going to hurt you. He was very complimentary of Jaden Akins. And what Jaden Akins did against Fletcher Lawyer, who has been a Spartan killer, so I don't want to hear anything about, like, Jaden Akins needs to do this or that. Jaden Akins made Fletcher Lawyer shut the hell up today with the way he played defense, and Fletcher Lawyer was whiny and upset and ornery, and he had his final second, Dominique Wilkins type 3, where you score when it doesn't matter, and so now he came away with 9 points. God bless you, but Jay, I got to watch how I say this. Jaden Akins owned Fletcher Lawyer today. I was going to say something else, but Jaden Akins owned Fletcher Lawyer today, and it had him smiling because I asked him about that, and he said, I played him a lot. I know what he wants to do, and it felt good to take care of him.
He was in his hip pocket, chasing him around those screens and doing the slalom around there, being in his hip pocket to the point late in the game. A Purdue guy gave him an illegal screen, and Akins draws the screen turnover because his defense was so good.
And that's what you got to do to win games like this. I wrote that in my 3-2-1, which I was posting kind of before we came down here. But those are the kind of plays that Michigan State needs or Purdue needs when they play games like this to win. Running as hard as you can on a trailer, going through a screen like that at 100 miles an hour because you care more about your teammates and winning than anything else. And that's more valuable than, a jumper.
Those are elements of Final Four defense.
Right. And you think it's selfless basketball. It's an unselfish play. And Jaden Akins, he's grown so much, matured so much over the years, beginning in his career, and I don't blame him, but a lot of times his defense would be dictated by what he was doing offensively, and now he's playing like the captain he is. He wants to win, and that's a winning play.
And then there was one time when there was a switch with the ball screen when he had it, and a big was on him, gave him some room, so then he went ahead and hit a little 16-footer from the wing, 17-footer, because it was there, it was open to him after a switch. He had a big on him that was playing the drive, and he took what the defense gave him, and he can knock down that medium-range shot. That's a good Robin right there, Paul.
Yeah, in the Illinois game, he scored he had that sequence in the second half where he scored 8 points, and they were on drives.
3 straight field goals.
And they're huge. And some of the ways he's finishing at the rim, that's something that he didn't do last year. So some of the creativity around the rim, or using some of the spin, using that rim to guard you from, protect you from shot blockers. Good things happen for Michigan State when they go downhill. With as good a rebounding team this is, we all know that they got to get better shooting the three. But, you look at the games that they played, the last 2 games, these are arguably their 2 biggest wins, and they haven't had to take many threes. What did they take, 14 threes tonight? They only took
4 to 13.
They only took 13 threes against Illinois. And, if you can do that efficiently, and one of the things I liked about Purdue as a basketball team is they shoot a high percentage of threes, but they're not taking a ton of threes. And, I don't know what they shot tonight, but
9 out of 24, more than usual. That speaks to the defense, probably.
Exactly, because they're not shooting a ton of threes. They're like a 37% three-point shooting team on the season. So
and tonight, 37 tonight.
Kudos to Michigan State for playing defense. And kudos to everyone on this basketball team for being unselfish. And teams that are unselfish find ways to win championships. I don't know if that's going to happen. There's some good teams in the Big Ten. Brutal schedule. That 20-game schedule is brutal, but these 2 games have put Michigan State back on the map, overcame that Indiana loss, that really bad loss, winning at Illinois kind of put them even in. This is a critical home game they had to win.
Yep, big one, Michigan State basketball, big one on Friday. Backloaded schedule, I wrote about that yesterday. SpartanMag.com about, I talked to Izzo about this last week in practice, and Michigan State's got all these red-letter games late in the year, Michigan twice. No one knew that Michigan was going to be this good this year after the problems they had last year, but in succession, Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, and it's during this 4-week period between the Super Bowl and the NCAA tournament. That's when these TV networks want to stack in big college basketball inventory, and Michigan State is a name brand, and that's 2 of the last 2 Sundays they play, Wisconsin and Michigan. So a lot of these games are stacked late. Now, Indiana didn't end up being as good as everybody thought, but they played well against Michigan State. Illinois, Michigan State was able to beat them. But Maryland's going to be a bear. Wisconsin, it would have been a lot better to get Wisconsin earlier in the year like Michigan did before Wisconsin got it going. And it would have been a lot easier if Michigan State had played USC and UCLA right after the holidays like Michigan did. Right. If you haven't, so those things have helped Michigan get off to a good start with their record. And now Michigan State's got all this at the end. It's a tough way for Michigan State to get it done, but we'll see what happens.
Then again, you could go devil's advocate, and I will, that was Michigan State ready for those games early in the season? Would they have been able to play?
I'd rather play Wisconsin December 5th than next week.
Right, I would agree with that, but Wisconsin was good. they were good early, then they got bad, and then they got good again, just like a lot of other teams. So
I would have rather played USC and UCLA on December 5th like Michigan did than –
I would have rather played UCLA before sickness went through their team and then went through Michigan State's team. So that's another part of it. But the one thing about Michigan State right now is you look at how many minutes they're playing, and you don't have it's not like a Tyson Walker team where he had to play successive games in big games. 36, 37, 38 minutes, and
helps. It helps.
It helps a lot.
Helps a little bit. So we'll see how it looks on Friday. It's going
to
be
I'm not going to make
one.
Excuses for Michigan State potentially losing before they do, because I think they're going to play good basketball, and it's not easy. This backloaded schedule isn't easy, but I think this team needed to build confidence and needed to come together as a team before they're ready to compete for a championship, and I think they're there now.
If Michigan had played tonight against Minnesota,
it would have been
and
easier.
they both had 2 days rest on Friday,
I agree with
I'd
you.
take the Spartans, no question.
I agree with you on that.
All right, anything else, Paul?
No.
For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni. You've been watching the VCast from the Breslin Center with the Spartans for SpartanMag.com.